Will mung bean tofu actually work? Will this be the day I finally make it happen? Hello friends and not yet friends, welcome back to Mary's Test Kitchen, where we don't give up on trying to tofu-ify everything. This time with green mung beans, so please give this video a thumbs up and let's soak these green mung beans. I say this almost every episode, but just for the newbies, we're applying the traditional method of making soy tofu to non-traditional ingredients and seeing what we get. The next day, I drain the beans and weigh just to see the change in cold, hard numbers. You can easily split the green hull and see the yellow kernel on the inside. Previously, I tried making tofu with split yellow mung beans several times. Those were the same type of bean, but with the green hulls removed and split into halves. I'll link those episodes in the description in case you missed them, but let's just say I'm hoping these hulls add something to the process. I'll put half in my blender jar and then about double the volume in fresh water. 30 seconds on high speed will pulverize the beans to release the protein, and through my trusty nut milk bag to remove the pulp. If anything, those green hulls are responsible for this lovely green color. I really love it. The mung bean pulp, of course, contains fiber, but what else? We can compare it to soy pulp. I pulled these figures from author Qisheng Liu from the book Soybeans: Chemistry, Production, Processing, and Utilization. So on average, soy pulp has a little protein, some carbs, and a whole lot of fiber. Therefore, we can surmise that the pulp from mung beans probably have a similar profile with some protein, but more starch since the mung beans have a lot more starch to begin with. However, the majority of the protein and starch should be in this beautiful green milk. Unfortunately, starch will interfere with the tofu making process. Remember our fava beanfu experiment? Starch-free tofu was all bouncy and tofu-tastic, while the starchy version crumbled under pressure and had a horrible, soggy mouthfeel. Personally, I don't want to mix starchy tofu even if it tastes fine. Only high-protein, low-carb tofu that can sub for soy tofu nutritionally and in cooking is welcome here. So I'm going to let this milk sit for at least 40 minutes and see how much the starch has settled. And since we don't have X-ray vision and my glass bowl is being occupied by another project, let's use some glass jars. After an hour, you can see a little tiny starch layer at the bottom of the jars, but not nearly as much as the other legumes we've tried. Meanwhile, mung beans should have a lot of starch. The starch is even traditionally used to make mung bean noodles, aka mung bean threads. Have you ever seen these clear noodles? They absorb flavors really well, so they're often used in hot and sour soup and also inside dumplings and spring rolls. But back to today, I expect the layers to be much thicker. I suspect we have a case of suspended starch, starch that just hangs out with the protein-rich milk without easily settling to the bottom. This could be a problem. A problem for tomorrow because the clouds are rolling in and it'll be too dark to film. So I put these in the fridge to chill and reflect on their life choices. And the next day, it's worse. Not only is the starch layer less distinguishable, at least in this larger jar, the milk has separated into this translucent top layer floating on top of a more opaque layer. What should we do? Well, we kinda know. This happened before when we tried tofu-ifying split green peas. I'll link that episode below if you want to check it out. But spoiler, the two layers made differently textured tofu. Both were good. So I'm thinking we should make 2-layer tofu today. I'm just going to separate the milk as best I can and cross my fingers. Some of you suggested siphoning the milk instead of my usual careful scoop method. Finally, I got this hose to try it out. There's obviously some starch in the bottom there, but just a tiny thin layer. I guess I need more practice. Or change my strategy? Regardless, I don't have time to try again. We must get on to the next step, cooking the milk. This serves two functions. For one, we actually need to cook all legume milk before it's safe to consume. And two, generally, it needs to be hot enough for maximum coagulation. For the coagulant, I'm using my usual 1.5 teaspoons of calcium sulfate with a half cup of room temperature water. If you recall from my video all about the different coagulants, minerals, as well as acids, it really shouldn't matter which you choose. They all performed the same way, at least with soy. wispy clouds are forming. With the heat off and lid on, I'll leave it alone for 15 minutes. Afterwards, we do have curds. Curds of a decent size, curds that seem to stick together somewhat, and clear whey. That means all the protein has clumped into the curds. A promising sign. Time to get the first layer of curds into my favorite tofu press. I'm not going to press this yet. I'm going to spread out the curds into a layer, and we're going to coagulate the other portion of the milk and see what happens. It's starting to bubble a little. Definitely can feel something scraping. Yep, there's the starch. You know what? I'm actually just going to strain this. Yeah, that'll be easier. I really wish this wasn't broken. It'd be more secure. Good. So in there, you can see, that's not burnt on proteins. That's the jellified starch. Oh, hot. Back with another clean pot. That was a lot easier to clean than the previous batch because that was starch and not burnt on protein. It's already pretty warm, so it's not going to take long to bring this up to a simmer. Okay, 190. So time to stir up the coagulant. Make sure that it's all suspended in the water. See the difference? Oh, you can see it's been burnt on the bottom a little. So I'm not scraping against the bottom because I don't want those burnt bits to come up. And lid on for 15 minutes. Yep, it tastes like mung bean soup, all right. Yep, not bad. I'll keep that. This can go in the fridge overnight. I am hyped to see what will happen. I'm rooting for something more like our green pea tofu than our previous yellow monstrosities. That's promising. Solid. Good. Mung beans tofu, well, kind of. But with a texture like this, it doesn't substitute for soy tofu. Of course, I'm sure there is maybe some other way I can isolate the starch better. My friends, I don't know why I have this need to make mung bean tofu, even though they've let me down time after time after time. That said, because of conflicting reports, I still have hope for the future. Maybe it lies in sprouting. Maybe it lies in amylase. But for the present, I think I'm done with mung beans for now. I have lots of other beans and nuts I want to get to, and apparently you want me to as well. You may not know this about me, but I have a tough time deciding whenever there are many options, like at a restaurant. and when picking my next episodes of Bullet Tofu. So I need you to suggest and vote for your number one most curious about non-traditional ingredient in the comments below for the next episodes of Bullet Tofu. And while you do that, I've got walnut butter and your top voted suggestion from last week to work on. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already, because there will be many more episodes of this and more to come. Bye for now.